Not the township, itself. But it will qualify. Yeah, total account.
She raised.
You can't do 10, 12 townships.
But it's closer for her to go.
Yeah.
So it just.
Already 8:30, huh? Yeah, let's call our meeting to order. Oh, let's see. First order of business is to do those minutes. Gary, second by Al. All those in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries. All right.
Okay, not much to report on recycling, other than I finished out the financial year. I'm gonna get a booth at the farm show, haven't been there in a few years, to do some public education. And it's time to start collecting totals from haulers, because in a few months I'll have to do the annual report. That's all I have for recycling. Trails End, still had a lot of snow. But we did find out that some of the trees that came down, in the winter storm were able to use for the pavilion, so that would be nice. Already booking into 2024 for Trails End. And then Fairgrounds, Johnny's ready to go to talk about the east wing of the round barn. Shh, just look.
Okay.
Alrighty. I think everyone can hear me, I'm loud enough. So everyone knows the issue with the east wing, it's a safety hazard, we gotta do something with it. So there's talk, tear it down, maybe rebuild it, try to patch it up. But a couple ideas we came up with, and one, and it's been brought before, was building a new barn there instead, with a show ring, bleachers, all that kind of stuff. And I guess I talked to the fair board and said, well, I had a couple ideas, mainly because the first plan that came up, I guess I didn't like the idea of blocking off, sorry, I'll go to the next one, blocking off that loop there, for many reasons. One, when the fair is going on, and throughout the summer you have people with horses, horse shows and stuff there. Trucks and trailers, if you get around backside that barn, there's nowhere to turn around. So blocking that loop I thought was a bad idea. Another one was emergency services and stuff. If something happened, during the fair and you needed to get around behind the barns, we block off the main road already for traffic. So now if you come in the front gate, you either gotta go all the way out and around and then again find somewhere to turn around, or come in the back gate and try to get through all the people, but if that loop's not blocked off, then you can still use it. So this was the design that I came up with, and we talked about it at the fair board the other night, and everyone, I guess, agreed, liked it, whatnot. What we're looking at doing would be obviously removing the east wing, putting up a 100 by 60 building, and this would be the outline. And I'll get into a couple options and layouts that would be available to do. This is just kind of showing an overview of what it would look like with a 100 by 60 building. This would be a 10-foot apron of concrete out front. And of course we'd have to move them to their storage. Now, That manure storage pit right now does not hold water. That's another reason why I kind of got involved, because I'm like, that never holds water. As you can see, it's full of animal waste from the fair, probably 2 years worth, maybe more. And I like, why doesn't it hold water? If your waste storage facility is not holding water, you kind of have an issue, because that means it's leaking probably into the ground. Well, in this case, when these were built, a pipe was put into the side so it would drain. That does not meet state standards. So we could move that. I talked to my boss, Nick, and what we're still looking into it, but as of right now, what we can find is if the fair or the county, whatever, we decide to go with this and move that, our department can cost share 50% of building the new pit, or installing. So, and there's, you know, ways to work around it to basically make that percentage a little higher, even though it would be 50%. It would be just ways of, like, you know, having Rands or Thompsons donate the excavating time, and basically somebody to pour the concrete. Of course, we'd be out there to supervise all that, but just ways to do it to get that 50% a little bit higher. So this was the first one. If it was set up this way, 100 by 60 with removable bleachers there on the sides, right there you could fit or hold 310 to 315 people. Obviously more bleachers could be brought in during a show or something like that here, but you kind of waste some space if you have two bleachers here, you know, just throw them off. There's like 15 feet on the end that really kind of gets just lost. Depending on the size of the haunch for the concrete, for that slab, you're looking at 90 to 100 yards. And our show ring would be 69 by 32, with a nice podium on the end there for announcing and that kind of stuff. The second one, and this one is the one I guess in my opinion is the most reasonable, is if we built in like permanent bleachers, wood bleachers, kind of like we have. You can build them into the corner. That right there is going to easily seat 450 to 460 people, and it makes your show ring a little bit smaller. But you can also use underneath these bleachers and just capping the ends with plywood. You can make like little storage areas in them. So stuff can get put away. It's, you know, kind of out of sight, out of mind thing, even during the fair or any other time of the month. And this building obviously wouldn't be just for the fair. When you concrete this and put this up, it would make the fairgrounds a lot more appealing to other event holders. I talked to Gary about this yesterday and he brought it up, well, what about weddings? As well, you know, one of the big things in weddings right now is having them in barns. You know, and the fairgrounds, I mean, you'd be able to rent this out probably at a higher cost of what we are renting them now. You'd have an entire concrete floor, you know, so you wouldn't be on dirt or clay, which is like in the multi-purpose. And it's a very nice setup for something, I guess you could say, like a wedding or other events where they have, you know, a speaker or something like that. The more improvements we make out here at our fairgrounds, the better off we're going to be of getting more events out there. Unfortunately, for years, the can's been kicked down the road as far as maintenance and improvements going forward with our fairgrounds. I mean, it goes back to when I showed 20 years ago. There's stuff that should have been done. And I mean, I'm not saying anyone here is at fault, because they're not. But we're at the time where we're way behind the 8 ball in improvements and trying to make our fairgrounds look a little more representable. This would be, like I said, just kind of another option that we would have. This basically was just a layout for the fairgrounds. And this building too, this is kind of a profile if you were standing back behind the podium looking out. We're looking at having 12-foot sides, probably a 412 pitch on it. So it'd be a nice big high building. So even equipment can go in there. Again, concrete floors, easier to clean. Just very functional. A lot of room. Again, that podium, we got it raised 4 feet up so you can see out over the show ring. So again, if you had another event in there, if you had, you know, like I said, a speaker or a wedding, the main part of that event can be up on that podium and seen across the entire area. And again, we would have storage underneath there for, your speakers, and things like that. Another thing I talked about, and I mentioned it to Gary, instead of doing a permanent PA system in there, I'd probably go more portable. They're just as good. Jerry Johnson uses one for all his auctions. You can hear them from wherever. That way it's not just a PA system stuck into this building. It's something, hey, we need one outside, you can grab it, take it outside. So that's the building plans we came up with. I guess what we're looking for, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, that was here the other night, is kind of looking to just be able to get the permission to go get bids for this stuff, and see what it's gonna cost. Right now, building materials have come down, concrete's still pretty high, but something's gotta get done, and I think everyone here in that board knows it. The east wing has to come off. I think throwing a bunch of money into it is putting a Band-Aid on it, versus just taking it off. Obviously, it's a huge safety risk, and nobody wants to deal with that headache if something were to happen, so. But we did come up with, other improvements that are gonna happen, or not, well, changes that are gonna happen this year. We talked about this the other night, as far as this is a multi-purpose building. That right now is all clay. The fair board is looking to purchase some new pig pens, and we're looking at moving all the pigs into here and having a show ring on this end. Obviously, if you have pigs on clay over a period of time, 1 year probably not a big deal, but 2 years you're starting, what you're gonna have is pig waste or manure. That smell don't go away very easy. Trust me, you get it on your boots, might as well consider them barn boots for the rest of their life. So we're looking at concreting at least half of this to put the pigs on during the fair. You would crown the center of it, it won't really be noticeable. All these pens would be able to get torn down, so if another event came in to use this, or Gary informed me that a lot of storage gets put in here in the winter, these pens get torn down and stacked off to the side. What's nice about that is when it comes to cleaning at the end of the fair, kids can pick up their stuff and then it can get power washed. And with that little slope, everything obviously would run to the outsides of the building. If you concreted the whole thing, again, that would be even more appealing to other event holders. But kind of what we're looking at for now is just half of it. The other thing this does is it gives us another indoor show arena. So now we can have shows any time of the day. Where the pigs, we host it right away in the morning, fairly early, to try to keep it cool. But we got 30 new pig, as of right now, 30 new people have signed up for to show pigs this year at the fair. And so obviously the numbers are showing that it's growing. Well, last year, I don't recall the number of people we had, but the pig show was almost 3 hours long. So you start getting towards the middle of the day, it starts getting hot. At least this would be indoors, or you could hold it later in the afternoon when it cools off. With lights and stuff like that, like I said, we can still have our goat and sheep show in there. It's a lot more reasonable, and it gives you, I don't know how to put it, but it gives you a better timeline of when you can have stuff in there. Obviously all this stuff we're looking at would be, again, removable, so you can have it for other events. And with only doing half of this, you're looking at 47 yards of concrete. If we poured it 4 inches thick, you wouldn't need a haunch because there's no weight bearing on it. Our show arena would be 200 square feet larger than what they have now. And your seating capacity with the removable bleachers, you're looking 230, 240. If you wanted to scrunch in more, you probably could. So this is just then some layouts that we talked about at the fair board. If you want me to go through them, I can, but it's just kind of how they lay the pens out. The last one, I guess, that other improvements we looked at, and again, I talked to Gary about this too yesterday, is cementing the aisles down each wing of the barn. The reason is if anyone here has pushed a stroller or somebody's been in a wheelchair or had to push somebody in a wheelchair down those barns, it is not easy. It's not even that much fun to walk on, especially older people that have a hard time getting around. It is uneven, and it's just hard to get clay to get packed in smooth, and this is something I think should have been done 20 years ago, is the center aisles of those been concrete. Again, it's an improvement to the fairgrounds. The appeal looks nicer. And I based these calculations, I didn't go down there and measure, but a 12-foot wide, 4-inch thick slab down the center of them. This is something even when Terry was here the other night, we talked about, because there's clay in there, you gotta scrape the clay out, put your gravel down. It would probably be a year of letting that go through the winter of freezing and thawing, so you get the best settlement you can, and then you pour your slab down. You kinda have more of a floating slab tied all together with rebar though, with the saw cuts, so we don't end up with a bunch of basically ledges that people are tripping on. So those are the improvements, and I guess the new barn that we were looking at, as far as the fairgrounds go. Is there any questions?
Wouldn't that concrete down there center aisle kind of bad for animals slipping?
Well, when you do that, you wouldn't do a finished. You would do like you take this again would have a little bit of a crown to it, so water could run off, or whatnot. But you do a saw cut on it, like with a 2x4, or you could do you could diamond roll it, or we could do grooves for hoof contact. None of that would really affect people going up and down it. I guess the grooves cut through it would kind of be like rumble strips, but if you had just standard concrete and didn't finish it, you just leveled it off, it would be rough or have enough contact for the animals to be able to walk on. It'd be like a barn aisle. I mean, at worst case scenario, you throw some lime down on it, during the fair.
You'd almost have to, because once it gets moisture, it gets slippery. Right?
Yeah, you're right. If it got humid out there, you would end up getting some moisture,
Sticks, you can't scrape it decent.
Yeah.
You could do an Italian finish on it too, it's more of a rough finish.
Yeah. Yep. So I think basically, and I mean, Charmaine, correct me if I'm wrong, we're just looking at being able to get bids for this, correct? Or at least for the new building?
Yeah, cause there was an ARPA request for the east wing, but that doesn't look very likely of going any further, so this was just another option, not to block off the road. Whether you consider it ARPA funds or capital improvements down the road, or even being willing to cost share a portion of it. But we know not to go get bids unless everybody's in the loop and on the same page, so right now I'm just asking to proceed with getting bids for this.
Well, what did you think this would come out of? Because if it's not something we're gonna do with ARPA, I guess where would the money come from?
Well, there's been no clear no that it's not gonna be ARPA, so I guess we still hold out hope. If no, then there's been other borrowing things that the county does, whether that be part of capital improvement projects in the future.
Myself, I'm not a huge fan of borrowing money for anything.
Or being willing to cost share a portion of it, but those type of, I mean, a new building is not gonna be able to come out of the fairgrounds budget, there's not enough money in it. Possibly some of the concrete, smaller things, but,
I mean, honestly, I think I'm gonna go with what Charmaine said there. Best case scenario is, can we at least get some cost share with it? We have a lot of businesses in this area that really support this fair, and I think would help out tremendously, but they're not gonna, obviously fund the whole thing. So if we can at least get bids to see what it's gonna cost, if we'll say, it was all coming out of ARPA basically, and what it's gonna cost to put that in. I have no doubt that we will get some of these businesses to help pitch in. But obviously it can't come out of the fair budget, there's not enough. It's help from everybody basically that we're looking at, and obviously talk in the future, if we get the approval to go forward, these businesses would get, obviously their names on the buildings and stuff like that, so, that helps sponsor it.
If Superior Choice wants naming rights or something.
Hey, if somebody wants to throw a big enough check towards this, I think the fair committee would have no problem giving the naming rights.
it could be very similar to what happened in the senior youth building, and that was funded long ago. There's the weather shield room, there's there's a variety of them.
Yeah.
Can we use ARPA funds with donations and match that way, or is that not something we can even do?
Can't do
it's okay.
Right, but, like, what are you talking for the match? Like, what funding source requires the match?
Well, if they're taking, donations from businesses and then we use ARPA funds, could we even do that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, it's just, you can't, like, if you have another grant that requires a 50% match, you can't use the ARPA funds to
Okay, I
match
got you.
that.
I got you.
You can use donations, not grant funds.
Right. Yeah, so that 50% cost share we wouldn't be able to use the ARPA funds.
That would, yeah, and that would be something totally different. That's talking the waste storage facility, and that would be the grant through our department, so. And obviously, I would be doing the designing for it, and then be there for the entire oversight of the project, which it really wouldn't be much. I mean, that's a super simple and literally, get it for no cost at all.
In kind, it doesn't have to actually be an RFP, people donate their time.
Yeah, well, so, yeah, that's kind of how you work it, is like, yeah, this is,
Yeah, I
cost,
see
you
what
know,
you're saying.
20,000, you know, so and so, overall cost 20.
I mean, if it comes in the highway, you don't wanna say no, right? Yeah, you know.
100% take it.
Outside of that.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that as far as the
So-
ARPA funds side, because like, Nick
Out of
thought,
fee?
we can take care of something.
Okay. So you made the motion, and Phil seconded it?
Yeah.
Any more discussion on that? If not, all those in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, passing what?
Can you repeat what the motion was? Sorry. Okay, alright. Bathroom state update. Gary.
I got a hold of, CNS Design and Engineering. They're gonna provide us, architectural, structural, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing drawings, for the 6 bathrooms and showers. I asked them if, you guys asked me if, they would do any more drawings, multiple drawings. He said they would, do an option for 8 bathrooms, but, obviously if you want a different drawing, you're gonna have to pay for it. So that's in the works. He figured he'd give me something back hopefully in the next couple weeks. And then we can get that out to the contractor.
Who is that?
CNS Engineering in, Ashland, Wisconsin.
Is it TNF?
CNS.
C's in cat.
Grandstands, I got the one quote, I'm waiting on getting more quotes here, I think, when I got the first quote there was no snow on the grandstands. The second quote, we're waiting for a general contractor, it's been about 3 months, so, these new quotes, they're gonna wanna see it in the spring when there's no snow on it.
Can you put it up for an RFP on that?
We can if that's what you want.
That's what I would think, that we get more I mean, if you get 10 options coming, I think that would be a better, we get as many options as we can.
We can if you want, it's just, the coding is, there, like I've reached out to some general contractors and they'll give quotes, but they're actually just gonna probably hire the guy that I got the quote from already, so they're just gonna tag it on.
Right, but I mean, at least like if there is somebody else out there that we haven't thought of, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, we just, we can, that what you might call competitive bidding and whatever. You wanna make a motion for that? That's a proposal?
Yeah, sure.
Your second for that? Alan, second? Any more discussions on that? Not, all in favor, signify by aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, committee request for milk and power improvements.
Yeah, the dairy committee, would like to do some upgrades to the milking parlor at the fairgrounds. no cost to the county, the committee will, do all the work and pay for it. And pretty much what they're looking at is putting down mats where the cows stand, and then adding another board to tie the cows to, so, nothing major, just, before they do anything to the building, they wanna get the appropriate approvals. Extension was fine with forwarding this on to, you for approval.
Second.
Made the motion, Al?
Yeah.
Motion made by Al, second by Terry, to make those improvements, mats and, tie down board or whatever. Any other discussion on that? Not all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Linda Forrest.
Mike is coming. He'll be here momentarily. Jared couldn't be here today because his kid is sick.
Livestock purchasing.
Is that on there, Connie? It is, can we?
No. All right, is that what we're going to?
Yeah, can we? Is that,
Yeah.
I didn't know if you added that on or not. So as Johnny explained, our livestock project is way up in numbers. We have up over 80 kids this year, and 50 of them are in the swine project. So the dilemma that creates is each of those kids can bring up to 3 pigs. So we are looking at purchasing some additional swine pens. We were looking at it initially to replace in that older swine barn. Now we just need them to use them. This would be, completely paid for by the livestock project, not the fair. This is part of our fundraising, what we do every year with our kids. So we would cover the cost. I have some quotes from the same company that, you guys approved the sheep and goat pens that I got a couple years ago. So I'm coming back to get approval to purchase some swine pens.
Motion made, second. Where's the funds coming from?
Our Rusk County Livestock Project. And we have the funds already.
Did you get competitive quotes?
There's not that many companies that make pig pens per se. This is a company out of South Dakota that deals professionally with this. So I actually went back to them just because if you've seen our sheep and goat pens that we got, they're just wonderful. Easy to move, easy to put together, take down, which part of the discussion is if we do have to move our swine to the multi-purpose barn, we want that area for storage in the future. We use it for sheep and goats. We take them right down, put them on pallets. You can take the pallet with the skid steer and move them. And they're kind of versatile. And again, this company sells throughout fairs throughout the United States, so I've kind of just stuck with them. I know they'll deliver. They'll drive right down to the fairgrounds.
And the price you see needs.
Yeah, it's actually, oddly enough, we purchased our sheep and goat pens has it been 3 to 4 years ago? The price for the pig pens are pretty much identical. The biggest thing they get you on is kind of the shipping, and that's kind of everywhere, but, being that we are a repeat customer, they are giving me a little bit of a discount. Obviously, the more pens you order too, they give you a discount. We're not gonna go crazy, because we do have additional sheep and goat pens that we can kind of use all this together, but we are in a shortage. We will not have enough spots or places to put all the swine for all of our exhibitors in the, Rusk County Livestock Project, so.
We have a motion, who made that motion? Gary, second. Motion been made, second to approve that.
And I can provide you with enough things if you
Any other
guys want.
discussion on it? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now, You're back from somewhere.
Oh, okay.
We can hear you better.
Yeah, well, let me grab some notes. All right, this is, I guess we're looking at our Audio Lake
campground expansion. And we were asked to, get some more detail or some, updates on our estimates, which we did. There's still some that we are trying to get. We're working on getting the toilet and shower house estimates yet from Bergen Construction and Kane's Construction. There's a lot of detail to that, I guess, so we don't have an update on that. So, but I did get, an updated estimate from Highway for developing the access road, and then also, our electric service, and then the water service estimate too. Our total comes in just under what we had proposed the last time, which I think was $750,000. What was it, 730? Anyway, we're at 720,000.
Or is it, that included those estimates from, or it doesn't, it doesn't include those estimates for bathrooms though from Vertigan's?
Not the updated, it's still, the estimate I have in here right now is from Hofgut, which is a little bit high, it's like 250,000. So, I think that's a little high.
Sounds like it. So, what are we looking for today?
Or,
I said, what are we looking for today? Is this just for information, or are you looking for approval, or what? Request for proposal? What are we doing?
giving the big nod, yes.
Well, that's pretty difficult yet. At this point.
So I think before you said it was 735, so that's about 15,000. What you originally said. And that's still off that bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Vertigan Construction was interested in building those bathrooms.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, if they're cheaper than Huffcut, I would suggest that maybe the fairgrounds ought to consider having a bid from them also.
We are.
I
We
mean,
are.
we haven't got one yet?
Well, you had to approve the plans from the state, and then we're gonna do the same, we're gonna go to Vertigan.
Well, don't we have to put plans for the SIP Body Lake too?
No, you're under the threshold of the state plans, if I remember right.
I think we are, yeah.
It's just 2 bathrooms, right?
Yep.
There's two?
Yeah, and
You're under the
sure.
threshold.
It's like number of fixtures.
Number of fixtures, you're under where you don't need state plans.
My thought is, as far as the bathroom's concerned, we should wait until we see if Vertigan might give us a package deal, if you wanna call it that. Where fairgrounds stand now.
Put it out for general,
Yeah.
if, King wants to do the same, or, you know, put it out so anybody can bid on it. Individually, or is it?
Or the package.
As a package.
Well, we just take 220,000 off of this, that's how much it is to just improve the campground. So 520,000 to build the road and improve the campground,
mm-hmm.
water,
Well,
electric.
But the thing I see is, you may still make improvements, but not doing the whole project. You might do bathrooms and not all the rest of it. You might just put, you know, how far you improve it is relative. I mean, you don't have to spend, say, 730,000. You may say, well, we'll do bathrooms, you know, and not necessarily the road or whatever, just, or whatever. I'm just saying, you could do a partial too. You don't have to do the whole thing.
Well, the road system would have to go on the first,
You know,
that's how I was talking with Tim at Highway about how this would go down. We would do the road system and get the campsites laid out first, and get all that earthwork done 1 year, get that set up for winter, then the following year, do the electric water, and then that's when the well house or the bathroom restroom.
Do you have an estimate on just the road system and the campsites?
Sorry?
Do you have a cost estimate on
Yeah.
doing the roads and
Yep,
And campsites?
yeah, the road system was 50,000,
Okay.
and campsite development was 60,000.
So you're looking at 110,000 for those two?
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, that, we would plan to do that year one, and then the following year, complete the rest of the job, rest of the work.
What else is included, what else is involved in, besides the bathrooms, after the roads and sites are, I mean, does that include water, septic or whatever, I mean?
We're gonna have a dump station there,
Okay.
yeah, there has to be a holding tank, which is part of that, will be part of that bathroom or restroom estimate.
That's part of the bathroom.
Yeah,
But what about running water?
that's a separate, I talked to Ron about that, and that was, $90,000 for the water service.
So that's a separate,
Yep.
part of the whole package, but a
Yes.
separate item.
Yep. Yep. And then that also will provide updated water to the existing campground, the 15 sites. We want to update that electric and water for the existing sites. So that 90,000 covers that. So there's 15 sites existing, 15 sites being proposed. New sites.
What's your pleasure, gentlemen? Proceed,
We can spend all our money right here, these two projects that is up there.
no doubt about it. There's three of them, we already talked about three. We got the grandstand, the barn.
The grandstand is.
Grandstand's done.
Yeah, that's already approved.
That was approved.
What I'm saying, you said talking about spending a lot of money. Spend all of it, but you one day, the bathrooms, you got the barn, you got this. Well,
I think it's something we should be considering at least this is something that actually helps, the community too, just kinda like some of the fairground projects we've done. Well, I'm not saying we, I don't know if we wanna send it out today, but I think we should, do something we might wanna strongly consider.
Is there any grant funding we can get for this, Mike?
Well, I tried, but we can't match this money with grant funding.
well,
We did look into that.
if you, let's just say, you can't use matching, but let's say, you need grant funding, for example, just for the bathrooms.
Well, it would be, the grants that we get would be, it would be tied to ATV.
What?
It would be tied to ATV, cause we wanna have this be open to ATVs.
Okay.
That's where I was hoping to get some grant funding. But if that's money, state money that we can't use to match, I don't know how, I don't think we
Well,
can do that.
yeah, we use like say, just an example, say ARPA for rebuilding the roads and the campsites. And then like apply for grant money for parts of the project,
Different parts of it.
different, in other words, not a single, large scale
Mhm.
project. If you do.
Yeah, that might be a better question for Jamie, if logistically, if that can happen.
Sorry, I was.
To be able to separate this out of it.
You can separate it out.
Some
Oh,
grant,
different projects?
some grant funds, some ARPA funds.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They're not
Yeah.
tied together.
because I can
Yeah.
certainly try to
Which
do
ones
that.
would- I mean, you would
there's no
probably know.
guarantees.
which would be
Well, I
more likely
understand
to get
there's
grant funds
never
for.
any guarantees, you got the money in hand, but.
I mean, that was my initial thought here, is that we'd be able, if the county would pay probably the greater portion of this to be able to get ETV to pay for some of this.
I think probably ought to look at that aspect of it first, myself.
Yeah.
The difficulty this year might be with all the storm damage, money that's gonna get sucked out of that pot of money. But if we would start the project and do the earthwork first, we might be talking the next year to do bathrooms anyway.
Well, that might be worth pursuing because we might get some,
And I would ask this spring, that's when our application delegates, and then at least, give them an opportunity to weigh in on it and say yes, no, or we have to put it off. But I would get it into the system, maybe just the restrooms, if that's a major.
you apply this year, this spring?
And would it be, you think 25% match for the grant if you're able to get one?
I would apply probably for the the restrooms entirely.
Okay.
If we're gonna split it up into parts.
Yeah, most of your guys' grants are 100% funded. There was one, which one was that? That was, I think we had like a 25% match.
Yeah, there's some other stewardship that are like 20, 80 matches.
So if it's 100% funded, then it doesn't matter so much the commingle because it's not being used as match.
Right. It's a possibility.
So if we did just the road and the campsites, you'd have the extra campsites, you just don't have the fancy new bathroom and stuff, or do we have to have a
We have-
electric bathroom because we added campsites in
Yes,
the state?
so it's required that we have the bathrooms. Within 400 feet of the campsite, actually.
So they gotta win, you're saying the bathrooms have to go in the same time the road's going?
No, before we can open the campground to the public, it would have to be there.
You can build a road so, and then just not open it until the bathrooms are in.
Right. Yep.
Well, that would be worth considering, I think, just the roads.
See what you can get for grants available for any part of it.
Yeah, if that's a possibility, I will apply. We'll see what we can come up with.
I think that we maybe need to get the clock rolling on the ARPA funds because we only have so much time on that.
Well, I'd make the motion to send 110,000 to do the roads and the campsites to the county board. It's gotta go there.
Yeah, do you want it to go to finance next week first?
Yeah.
Finance and county board,
And try to apply for the bathrooms.
Mhm.
Get them.
Yeah. Yep, I'll
So
put
we're
it
gonna
on
approve
the
110,000.
list for the spring.
is there a second for that?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Jerry to apply for the roads, send it to finance and county board. Cost of 110,000 for campsites and roads. Motion by Jerry and seconded by Phil. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Now we'll do finance.
Well, some of our other projects, was to pave the Murphy picnic area. And I talked to Tim about that, cause he had given me an estimate, a couple of years for that, but it's gone up since, along with everything else, which was $47,000 to do that.
Is that Murphy?
Yeah, that looks like this. This area here, which would be the access road and the parking lot. And then also to pave the access road and parking lot up to the Josie Creek shooting range. And then also we thought about paving the, back loop of the campground.
Josie Creek or?
Yeah, but Josie. And Tim had given me estimates for that also. It was, to do both of those loops the paving at Josie was $51,000. Sorry?
Second, third request?
Yeah, second, third, final request though. Since our priority is Audi.
Shooting, right there. How are they planning on adjusting that hill on that shooting range?
Well,
That's a-
8 or 10 years ago, they did change that hill.
I don't know.
Whether it helped or not, I don't know, but I think one of the thoughts was by paving it, it would help. If you had a paved surface, it would help secure that hill.
Still gonna have a ditch somewhat.
Yeah, it's ditched on the north side.
Ground,
Yeah, yeah, because there's water that
goes down that hill.
Mhm. But that was the idea with paving it, was that would be
Well,
a
you wouldn't have
better way
some-
to secure that.
Won't have so much washing in the
Yeah.
road, but you get,
Right.
could get quite a bit of erosion on the ditches unless you have some pretty good aggregate there.
Yeah, on the edges, especially the north edge.
Yeah.
There's a channel there now and a culvert, so, and it's been working. Moving that access road helped, but it's not relieved the problem, the erosion. I mean, that's a pretty tough hill.
I know that's for
The
sure.
more use it gets,
Steep
it's,
hill.
yeah.
So Josie Creek is the lowest of the priorities, so.
Yeah. Quality is our number one priority.
No, right, I understand all that, but then you got Murphy,
Oh, yes,
and then,
correct.
why is Murphy such a higher priority than the Josie Creek? Because that's level, flat ground board that driveway.
Well, there's another hill there. It has the same problem at Murphy.
But it's not as, near as steep or anything. I mean, that's.
Yeah, that's pretty steep. We've been asked to go sand that today, actually. ISH Trail is using that this weekend and they want it to sand. So, yeah, that's one that we struggle with also. I mean, I'm not sure if you wanna compare usage. Maybe Josie would get more use if you consider the back loop.
I think Josie
So-
probably does, 'cause Josie's pretty well full all summer.
Yeah,
And, we have a full-time caretaker at Josie,
yep,
volunteer caretaker, so that campground is kept pretty well, under control, whatever you call it.
mm-hmm.
And plus it has it's got a good, nice boat landing and everything there, I mean, I think it gets pretty heavy usage.
Yep, it does. And the shooting range gets used.
And the shooting
a
range,
lot.
I think.
More.
I would almost put that one at a higher priority myself than
That would be fun.
Murphy.
That'd be okay.
So what's the estimated cost on Murphy, on Josie Creek?
That was 51,000.
Make the motion for street project.
For what?
The Josie Creek, on top of most of it.
What about Harvey Floor? Did you do anything with them?
No.
Josie Creek. Leaving.
For that, finance, 51,000. Somebody second that? Yeah, second. Any more discussion on that? Not? All those in favor, signify by aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. What else we got? We get some government center?
No, culvert.
What colors, yeah? Wait, and forestry culvert.
What's the culverts for, like?
Thank you. Culverts?
Yeah. Forestry culvert, which is.
Oh, I think, that must have been for Jared's project.
That's Jared.
Jared's not here today, so I can't really
Do you
speak
want
to
me to,
that.
do you want me to call him?
What's it for? What do you want to know?
Do you remember? You were there.
I don't remember. Funny.
I don't remember, I thought we had approval for culverts in
Yeah,
our
to
meeting.
the highway.
4th Street approved,
Yeah.
but then it's over 1,000, so that's on here.
Is that for?
Oh, okay, I think it must have been on a logging job.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I did go look at those two sites. There were two sites we were considering, and one was a very large pipe that we would have to have there.
What's the estimated cost on that?
It was like
Thought it was
2,000 or 2,500.
2,400.
Yeah,
That's for forestry roads?
yeah, it was for a forest command.
Right.
Yeah, it'll come out of the forestry road money.
Yeah,
They had the money budgeted.
It don't have to come from this committee though, does it?
Yes.
it's not a county forest road, it's a forest road, to be clear, like a logging
Yeah, the
road.
logging road.
Yes.
Here, I have Jared on speaker. So can you just go over the culverts, what you need them for?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. On some of our timber sale contracts, we sold them with, in the contract saying that we will provide a culvert for them to install, to cross a stream to access their timber sale. In this case, we need a large culvert over $1,000, so that's why we're here. It's 30-foot long,
Okay,
What's
anybody
the
got-
budget, Jared?
I believe the loan money that we carried forward from last year.
66, right?
50 cents an acre, whatever, 40.
No, it's,
And what was the price, was it 2,500?
I believe so, like, what is in that?
that they have,
Huh?
they have money in that carry forward budget.
So it was the money that was left from when they were borrowing that, the severance advance.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, that's what we carried forward. The price is, 44.55 a foot was the last quote I got from Nathan at the highway department. Less than 2,000, more than 1,000, whatever that comes to.
It'll be between 1,000 and 2,000, I think.
So you're requesting up to 2,000?
30 feet. 1895.
So up to 2,000.
Yeah, I'll make the motion up to 2,000.
okay, we have a motion, make,
Once the price went up, this quote was in December.
They went up
Yeah.
10%.
It's going up.
Wanna go up to 2,500?
Yeah, go up to 20, I'll make a motion to go up to 2,500 on it.
okay, we have a motion made, to go up to 2,500 on the floor.
Second.
Second that? Bill. Alright, is there any more discussion on that? Not, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Alright,
Alright,
thanks, Jared.
now we go.
Bye-bye.
Moving.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Ash.
Yep. Oh, hey, Mike.
Like, you gonna be in the office for a while,
Maybe for a half an hour.
or I'll catch you on Monday then.
Okay.
Remind you.
So we got.
Yep.
You got it here? Alright,
I guess update on, building and grounds is, obviously this winter was an early winter for snow. The buildings are paying for it, there's a lot of ice dams all over the place, and every building has an ice dam. Every building is getting water leaking into it, gutters are getting ripped off, exhaust pipes are getting ripped off. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of work in the spring, to repair everything. I guess we're keeping up on, keeping everything running, but, just so you know, there's gonna be quite a bit of work in the spring, to touch everything up.
Do the ice dams, salt bunks, or?
Well, we've been hitting them with the hot water power washer to try to eliminate them, but obviously if it freezes up again, they come right back.
There's a lot of ice buildup on the valleys and that sort of stuff.
Every valley's got a foot of ice on it.
Oh, we go.
Yeah, we're working, doing our best, a lot of them are city county buildings, but, some of them are county buildings. We're working on them. We're down maintenance tech, and we're still the housekeeper yet, but then we're in the process of getting filled here. And then we moved one of our maintenance techs up to a maintenance manager, and then with, our maintenance manager retiring. And then, we should be good, once we get everybody hired, but, I just wanted to let you guys know that probably this spring, early summer, we're gonna have some repairs.
summer techs?
What's that?
Did you say summer techs?
What interns you need?
Interns or what?
Well, in the summer, we're just gonna have some repairs,
Oh, some repairs,
but yeah, we will have some summer repairs, probably, summer.
Well, if there's an inordinate amount of damages you know, suggesting it might be, I think some of that money could come out of ARPA for repairs.
A lot of like slides and all that, the ice slides are, I mean, they're just shearing off all the exhaust pipes on the furnaces and boilers and stuff like that, so I mean, it's, even though I've done, papers looked at, one at, gates there, a lot of the ice is falling off the buildings and, you know, the new loading dock bumpers they put on there, they're probably not gonna be doing no more. Same with, all the exhaust pipes that come on the sides, a lot of them are sheared off, so then when the ice hits them on the inside where the furnace is and the ceiling, they're all tweaked. It's all fixable, it's just, I want you guys to know.
Responsible, that's, management.
Some of it is not all.
Some of it, but not all of it, but.
That would think that exhaust pipes would be overly complicated effects. Straighten everything.
No, them are fairly simple. It's just,
Gutters and rust.
yeah. So, right now, we have a few of them just blocked off, just cause for safety concerns. Okay, cause there's doorways underneath them.
Well, we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it.
I guess the status of the hospital asbestos survey actually asked me a couple weeks ago to get that lined up for May. I called them, they said anytime in May, once it gets closer, he'll let me know when they're coming. But he definitely liked that nobody would be there when he did it, cause he could do a better survey.
That's supposed to be vacated by May, isn't it?
That's, so I'm told, yeah.
Okay. Sooner be done the better.
Anybody, are they still planning on July being out of there, or, they give up
Where
there?
maybe they'll be up by March 13th.
Right, but they were gonna be out by March, but they were gonna continue renting until.
I haven't updated that.
It's later down the agenda.
If you want it now,
Oh,
You don't might as well go on your phone or.
Okay, so Marshfield gave notice, they will be out March 31st. No, April. I didn't bring the letter with me, was it April 30th?
Was it 60 days or 90 days?
It's 90 days, so April 30th. They gave notice on February 1st, so
Yeah,
it'll be
so-
out April 30th.
Yeah, we were good to go in May.
So they'll be done, so we will stop collecting rent starting in May. So I talked it over with Rich and he would prefer that the property committee send some kind of recommendation to the county board about how we wanna move forward with the hospital. Because starting May 1st, we'll be on the hook for, of course, utilities.
And that's when the clock starts to turn.
That's when the 2 years starts, yes.
Why can't we get the asbestos people in there in April? Marshall said they'd work on us.
They will not let us do an asbestos survey with patients in the building.
I feel like that's what the guy referred to when he was here, that while they were renting, we'd be able to do that survey because they're holding us up from that.
No, he said no.
That's not the way he communicated it when he was at the property meeting.
No,
Well,
I'm pretty sure that, it was May and that they might still be paying rent at that point, but they would have the patients out.
I think they're serving notice though for first of May, aren't they? Or-
Yeah, they'll even be out for that.
So that's when the clock starts to turn. That don't leave us too much time.
Not really.
Because, by the time you survey and get the asbestos removed, and then do the demo, you gotta get quotes and.
And if we know what we're doing with it, then we can just cut off the utilities if we are going to demolish it, so.
We can say we're doing all we want, but the full board's gonna make that decision.
Right, but I think we need to get the ball rolling on that so that we don't end up paying for a few months of utilities for tens of thousands of dollars or more.
Yeah.
If we're just gonna tear down the building.
I don't think the city's happy. But nevertheless, we still have to proceed with all the best thing is gonna affect the county.
I'm not against putting it out for quotes to see what somebody would pay for it, it's enough.
You know, we can't-
If they bonded it, though.
We You can't wait too long for them to request them. Because the clock, once the clock starts ticking, you know, if you don't get them back for 4 months, you just lost 4 months.
So by the end of May, have all the requests, quotes in for that.
Well, if you're gonna do that, I think you probably wanna actually, if you're gonna consider that, you actually might as well get, you know, started now. For request, knowing that's coming.
We could, and then in May, we'd have the asbestos survey back, and then we could weigh up, this is what it's gonna cost to tear it out, and this is what some companies have offered to do with it, and then we can make it
If we could-
by then.
The thing I see the problem is, they've been talking about this for how long, and yet there's been no, I don't think there's been any expressed interest.
Well,
Nothing more.
Well, one company expressed interest in turning it into workforce housing. I met with them a few weeks ago, but they would not be ready to take ownership on May 1st. So we would have to, like Jamie said, carry that building. Gary would have to be putting time into it, making sure the water kept running. And there's no guarantee that they would want it. And if they do want it, I think they would be expecting to get it for
That's all.
close to nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Leadership Authority had a proposal for elementary, and the company, whoever it was, the developer, they wanted the city to kick money in,
Yes.
give them the building and kick money in. And I think you got the same situation down at that, where that old disposal plant was.
At the old animal shelter?
Right.
Yeah.
They'd be interested, but they want it for nothing and then have the city kick money in. We're not.
Well, if somebody bids on it, we can still say no if we choose it's not in the best interest of the county, I'm just saying. What would be the harm of exploring the options?
There's none, as long as it doesn't kill our time clock.
Didn't it already go out for bid in April?
Huh?
For demolishing.
Or for
For demolishing.
Yes,
It was
but-
just demolishing?
We never
Yes, I
had
don't think it was for sale, but the thing is too, then that, you know, we might end up paying utility bills for a few months then.
Well, you
Yeah.
said we could put them out for, bids right away, right? Is that what I just heard?
Well, I mean,
Nothing says you can't run
yeah.
both proposals
Okay,
at the
so
same
if we
time.
put the bids out by now, they'll be here by the time we get to asbestos survey in May
You could run
and make a decision at that
it
point,
at the same
right?
time concurrently.
I mean, yeah, I don't wanna drag it out, but that's why we gotta do the research now instead of waiting until then and say, well, our only option, because we're gonna pay utilities, and then it's gonna go to full board and everybody's gonna ask the same question, what's our options? We don't know, we only explored one option.
Right.
So let's explore the options so that we have
Get
some
it laid out on
information.
paper.
Right, this is our options.
I don't think they can give a good bid though unless that survey is done.
Okay, it was put out for redevelopment bid, or proposals, back in April. It was a joint RFP between the county and the city.
And
That's a joke.
So I'm guessing it was only this Impact 7, I'm guessing they're the only company that responded.
What's a joint management or?
Well, that's not joint
I
venture.
think she's saying April of last year.
No, Jeremy Jacobs' name is on this as the admin coordinator. April 8th.
So yeah, April of last year, but.
That's not part of the joint venture. That wasn't part of the joint venture.
The city did it, right?
What's that?
She said Jeremy Jacobs' name was on
The city
it.
wanted to.
Yeah, I think they did it together, I don't remember.
It is, it's together, it was the city and the county together.
I think if you're gonna want solid quotes, though, you're gonna have to get that survey done first, otherwise there's so much variance.
Well, Impact 7 said they didn't care so much about the asbestos, cause you can encase it. Encapsulate it, right, so they were pointing out all the tiles that have asbestos and like the stuff around the pipes, but that didn't really seem to matter to them, but that's just one company, I guess.
Well, nonetheless,
idea.
if you want to request for proposal for development, for a developer, they're gonna be aware that there's asbestos in there.
Well, I mean, they're gonna be sending their engineers in, right?
Pardon?
You're gonna send their engineers in to
Well, we
design
think
it.
so.
Right, so I mean, that's not really,
So, you know, whatever they decide, if the ours is, it'll be based on what their analysis is, not what ours is.
right.
Oh, you know, that's, but I'm for some reason, I think we should, if you wanna send out a proposal, request for a proposal now, or whatever you call it. And,
I'd rather have our options explored before all of a sudden we're put
well,
up against the
by
wall.
May 1, when.
Yeah, and all of a sudden we don't, then we start exploring options, kinda like we've been talking about this since I got on and nothing's been done other than we finally agreed that we get an asbestos survey done.
Get everything together.
And then we wait in another 2 years and lose a new mine down, so I'd rather like do something, I guess, take some action, so we're not.
You don't have to take action.
I'll make the motion to request RFP
For development,
for development.
for developers or.
I'll second.
Is there a second for that? You second?
I'll second.
Alright. Motion to.
Do we need a roll call vote? Do we need a roll call vote here?
Are we gonna have to have an RFP for asbestos abatement? You know how much that is gonna cost, or
What?
We got one out.
We got a quote, once he gets the actual asbestos survey, then we would put that out for RFPs and say, okay, now he wants to tear it down. But right now, he needs a survey to see where all
Do
the
we have
asbestos is.
quotes for the survey, or did we have that scheduled, or what's the status of that?
Scheduled for May.
Okay, do we get quotes for it? Or,
Two different companies.
and what, and how much is that gonna cost? Cause I got,
I don't have it, handy, but,
I heard it.
I presented it to you guys.
I thought I
yeah, I
heard
just
it
wanna make
was
sure
around
that
1.4 million or something.
we're in compliance with our procedures.
That was for tear down, not for the survey.
No. That was asbestos.
The asbestos quote
was variation.
was like 1.8 to 4 million, it was like.
Yeah, 1 point something to 3.8 or something like that.
And that was depending on the survey.
Right.
Right.
And that can't be done till after they vacate, so we don't know what we're at.
And same with the demolition, they can't demolish it unless the survey's done.
Yes.
Well, we still look seek for development.
Well, at least once we get there, we have an
And
idea.
if they don't come
what
through by
may
May
happen
1st,
there.
I guess we just.
I'm just gonna tell you, in May, we get a bunch of information for tear down and tear down only. It's gonna come to full board, everybody's gonna ask, did you guys explore some other options? And if we say no,
Well, we.
then we're gonna,
We did though, we did explore other options
Year.
a year ago.
a year ago.
And we got one interested
So you believe that everybody's gonna be satisfied with that?
Well, okay, but if we do this again, this is gonna kick it out months.
Yeah.
Do you really think there are new developers that would be interested now versus a year
I
ago?
guess I never saw what the bid for the tax out was.
Tony, do you remember, was it 21 million
For what?
to turn the hospital into like 63 housing units?
21.4.
21.4 million.
$340,000 a unit.
Right.
They were,
That's for,
they were gonna pay that much, Impact 7 was interested in paying that much?
No.
They wanted us to, did we put it out for bids for somebody to buy it and fix it up themselves?
that was for so
That's what
many
this is.
studio apartments, so many
Or
one
something they want us
bedrooms,
to fix it?
so many two bedrooms, and so many three bedrooms.
Well, they would be,
63 in total.
they'd be pursuing, federal money for
$340,000 for a studio
Well, that's
apartment.
tight.
right, it would be grant
Because if
funded
it's a
and then,
contingent, then we lose it.
Contractor.
exactly, and then if the
Nobody's
grant,
interested in it.
if the
That's just
grant
what
is
they
tied
got
to the
from the
mortgage, then you
engineers.
can't
From the
do
engineering,
anything to
yeah.
lose this
Whoa.
out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What it cost.
that wasn't even, that was not a quote, that was an estimate from the engineering.
Yeah.
Well, how long would it, I mean, if we put it out now, what's our normal timeline on that? Is it a month?
I think it's 2 months, because it would have to come back to you guys to go through them, and then we would do interviews.
Should be
Well, at
by-
least we could say we did it.
It's to be by April. I mean, she's saying we did one last April, but,
Oh, I'm sorry, they left this one out for 2 months, so it was put out April 1st, and the deadline for proposals was actually June 30th. But we don't have to use the same timeline as last year.
No.
You guys
I
can
would use
decide.
a month, maybe. I mean, we wanna get it in a timely manner, Or by the time we figure out the cost of deconstruction, we ought to figure out, what are options for development.
Well, how soon can we put it out? It's we're talking middle of February, we can put it out middle, for a month and a half, that means you want the answer back by April 1st. Time for time to consider it.
Yeah.
Is that reasonable?
Might as well throw it out there again. See, I mean, if nothing comes back, nothing
It
comes
don't
back.
it don't cost us anything to put out for a request for it. Might as well put it out there. What I'm saying.
So then we can't really get county board to take any action on it until, we're looking at probably April then. So
What,
then we-
what action are we looking for the county board to take on it right now?
Just one step forward, what do we wanna do?
Oh,
So we're looking at having to pay at least 1 month of astronomical
Utilities.
utility costs.
What are the utility costs?
Well, I'm trying to get that information, Tony, but it would be thousands of dollars every month for electrical, for heating, cause I'm sure we would still need to be heating in May. And then, the head of maintenance out there told me that on the wing they've already abandoned, they have to have somebody up there every week flushing toilets and running the water to make sure that the plumbing doesn't go. So that would be time for Gary's staff to have to go out there and do that. We'd have to pay for lawn mowing.
Well, wait a
What is it
minute,
called?
you said, by the month of May?
So they will be out April 30th. On May 1st, it's totally ours.
Right, so why do we have to pay utilities after that?
Because if we're gonna have someone come in to redevelop it, we gotta keep that building going.
Keep what going? It's not gonna freeze.
In early May,
The building's already got residual heat.
okay,
There's no way it's gonna freeze.
well, we have to keep the plumbing going.
if the toilets need to be flushed, I know, when they Tony Hauser.
And no, shut the water off. We're not gonna leak, shut the water off.
Now, I can't see putting money into the maintenance of it after we have it.
Right,
I can't see that,
I say shut it off.
whether it's 5,000 or 10,000 or
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay, so then can we forward that to county board and have
But
that?
yeah, utilities go off May 1st.
I would say,
You making that a motion then?
Well, you have a motion on the floor.
We've already got a motion on the floor.
You have a motion on the floor.
move it to it, I can't.
We'll vote on it one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, regarding the more, I think, first of all, we should, if we're interested in cutting the utilities off, we ought to have a motion for that first.
You got a motion on the floor.
All I'm trying to say is,
I get it.
we can vote that one down, then make a motion to cut utilities off, and then bring it back up,
Okay.
where I'm coming at.
Made the motion? You wanna rescind it?
Can't second it. You can't rescind it.
We'll call for a vote.
We ain't gonna have a vote.
What is it?
Make a roll call.
Motion is to send it out.
It's to request RFPs for 30 days to develop the Rusk County Hospital. I'm at discussion now.
This kind of makes the big bucks.
Well,
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what the right answer is, but I'd just like to say that we've explored all the options.
yeah, right.
You know, I mean,
But it sounds like we have. We went out for bid.
Can we
They wanted
table that
$21 million
motion?
from us.
You
We
can't-
don't have $21 million to give.
You can,
Unless we borrow for it.
what was,
Of action.
or the city was talking about a company that did the Guild and Eau Claire and all
Then we
that.
can't put it,
Seems like there
can we
was.
put another motion on the floor
That is
after
the
we table it?
same,
Oh,
they're
that's
using that
okay.
same developer.
That's Impact 7.
It's tabled.
They have, this was
Yeah.
Impact 7, but they were using the same
So
architect.
what?
Just vote
Martin
it down.
Johnson
Vote it down.
and
Then
Venture,
do
River
your-
Valley,
And
that's it, yeah.
then make the same motion and then
Right,
there you go.
that's right.
But I would, you know, if this is what you guys wanna do, you could, fail the motion
Fail.
for lack of,
No, we got voted down, period, for lack of nothing.
right, you can.
We just get voted down. Okay, all right, call for a question. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Yeah.
Aye. All right, motion fails.
Okay.
Now, motion that we cut the utilities off May 1st. Water and electric. And forward it to finance and Cook County Board for approval. Yeah,
Electric and water, or do you want the utilities, cause you're gonna have sewer and other stuff involved in that too, right?
well, sewer ain't
It's
gonna,
tied in with water.
basically water and electric, because sewer's not gonna mount anything, you ain't running water.
Sewer's completely built off of your
It's
water
gotta be
usage.
pumped.
Yeah, when it's built off your.
Right, right, your gallons of sewer
Well,
are
it's
based off of your
utilities.
water consumption,
But
so.
basically, if you wanna call it,
Utilities, cause you got the phone and everything else.
you know, all right. They got utilities,
We're not worried.
huh?
Nothing could happen if we don't have utilities out there to do anything. I mean, even if you turn.
Whatever, Jeff.
I don't know, something scary could happen, I don't know.
I mean,
Is there an issue with public fire protection or?
are
anything
there
like that?
security cameras, are there other stuff like that that has to be?
I don't think they're not our security cameras.
Yeah, and they're also gonna probably more than likely rip all the Wi-Fi stuff out too, as they install that.
Well, I do have a question though on that. Regarding the, clinic building, is that tied in with this hospital?
But that is not ours, that is Marshfield's
I
building.
understand, but is there any common connections between them?
I'm sure there is, yes.
Well, so if we decide to cut off utilities, that means utilities in the, clinic section couldn't be cut off.
I would think so.
Well, they've gotta be
You're
here.
gonna have to keep the fire suppression going. at
That's what I
least.
was gonna say. They're,
Insurance is not required.
What's it gonna burn, concrete?
If it's hooked into the other clinic there.
if it burns, we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Insurance
But
would
then the
probably
other clinic will see
require-
ya.
I guess that would be a utility question.
Right, so you'd have to keep the water on, and then,
I mean, it really shouldn't be metered separately though, it's completely
Fire
owned
suppression
separately.
system it is.
Right.
It's
But that's
passive and
right,
active.
that clinic is tied right
part of
into
it's
the-
wet, right?
Yeah.
Right, but their service
What-
connection should be
What if they
separate.
got one of these worse, dry systems?
But again, I don't,
That runs off electricity
You
though,
gotta have air pressure on it.
and that runs off electricity.
That runs all electricity. Sure, I'm saying.
Won't we be required for our insurance to keep utilities going?
What's that?
Wouldn't we would be required by our insurance to have our fire suppression
I don't know.
operational?
It would be up to Marshfield though to make sure that they got their clinic covered for everything. As far as I'm concerned.
Maybe that should be, the question should be, presented to Marshfield
If they want,
regarding, because of the clinic.
if they wanna keep the lights and, water on for the.
If they wanna protect their property, you know, cause we feel we don't have anything to protect. As far as the hospital's concerned. So, if you want protection, go ahead and pay for it, or pay the utilities. Continue to pay the utilities until you decide that you wanna cut it off. So they decide you wanna cut it off. And then you present it to Marshfield Clinic, or to Marshfield Hospital that way?
If you would like, yes, I can email.
Well, I think we should, because, you know, if we decide on May 1st to kill all the utilities, it's gonna affect their property.
I really don't think it can, because they owned that building prior, well, we still own the hospital, so they would have had to have it metered separately,
sure they have
heated
it
separately, everything.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, I think it ought to be looked into anyway.
Maybe we should just have some research done on, see if we can even shut the power utilities off out there. With insurance and everything else.
Well, maybe we ought to talk to, see what Richard's got to say about it.
Bring it up at our next meeting.
As we move away.
If we decide to shut it off, then insurance says we
Clock
can't.
keeps running.
we can always decide at a later meeting to turn it off if you want,
You can-
once we find out.
You can say May 1,
Contingent on insurance.
exactly, contingent on insurance and
Marshfield.
Okay. So we do have a motion so far, right?
So when is the
Was it
motion?
seconded?
yes. Motion by Hauser, second by Rasak to discontinue all utilities to the Rusk County Hospital as of May 1st, 2023. Do you want contingent?
Contingent, add on the contingent, you know, on insurance,
Advice.
requirements, whatever.
Gary's gotta start mowing it.
Well, that's what,
Yeah, but the mowing part is really, that's incidental compared to the overall utilities, you know?
the guy that does it now called me yesterday and wanted to know if we wanted to proceed with him doing the snow plowing and the grass cutting. I said I'd ask you guys.
Well, you wanna keep it mowed until it's abandoned, torn down, whatever you wanna call it.
Mows it now.
Anderson.
But, you know,
I
I
don't think
think,
there's any reason we need to hire an outside company. We have, especially at this point.
well, contingent on May 1, it still gives us, 2.5 months to, you know, get all our other ducks in order, if you wanna call it that. Without committing to paying the bills, the utilities. And maybe a decision would be made by then, as far as splitting the rehab. It's something to give, I think it's something that at least we could, if we forward this to county board, at least everybody's kept, you know, appraised of what's going on.
At least at this point, I mean, whether it's what I want or what you guys want, at least something's presented to the board so a decision
Right.
can be made.
It's
Right,
not just
okay.
being ignored, it's being worked on. Okay, any more discussion on that? All right, on the motion to cut off utilities on May 1st, contingent upon,
Consultation with
you know, insurance. Move forward to the county board.
And do you want to do something, let Marshfield know about that too? Find out if they have any.
You don't wanna do that?
Well, I mean,
It's gotta
it's
be-
our hospital. I don't know why we would ask them for permission.
Well, unless there's
No,
something
but
that's
if we
connected.
have, if we can do it,
they have to know that that's
That's their thing.
that's gotta be, that's on the table, and
Well-
they had utilities before they even had control of that building, so.
I'll call in.
And I would agree that, you know, I have come around houses in town, and once my renters move out, they move out. I don't really ask them what I wanna do with my building anymore.
okay, well, are we ready to vote on that? Alright. Everybody heard the motion? No comments? All those in favor, signify by aye. Okay. Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Now, we're up to backup generators, I guess.
I guess I was just wondering where you guys sat on that yet. I know last time you said you guys wanted to hold off until you decided with the new building or something. But I do have quotes, I got quotes from 3 different people. 2 of the people decided to combine their quotes together into one. There's quite a bit of a price difference. One is $83,987.
I'm sorry, what was it?
$83,987. And the other one is $113,307.20.
That ARPA funds?
No, I don't think you guys,
That's some old,
yeah. You guys pushed it for the, before, for the for the building or whatever.
Right, so if we do proceed to move forward with the new jail and courthouse updates, we would pull in these upgrades that Gary is talking about to bond for it all at the same time.
But if not, then what? Plan on just using ARPA funds for that purchase?
I don't think it
or
has to
we
be
could use it as
part
part
of
of our reimbursement.
Right.
resolution.
Reimbursement?
That resolution where we can reimburse ourselves with bonding funds when we do borrow, since we're not borrowing this year.
Basically, if you've got the money to pay for it, with ARPA funds, I just assume pay for it, be done with it.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yes.
So where the book from?
Send it to finance then?
B&B Electric,
So which one?
the lower one.
83,000 B&B?
Yep.
I think we wanna borrow money for a generator.
No, cause you gotta pay it back.
And where's the other one from?
Moldberg and Red Cedar combined, they're close together. I reached out for a separate one from each of them, but they decided to combine them together.
What kind of, what brand are they? Are they similar brands or?
It's a Kohler 60 kW,
From B&B or both of them?
both of them.
Okay, they're both Kohler 60kW. Huh? Yeah, maybe they get more expensive. And that's a diesel run, it's not like an ETO. Diesel gas, I don't know which is.
Natural gas.
Natural gas,
The
okay.
generator itself is what, 23,000 or something?
Yeah.
The generator itself is about 41,000. They're both comparable on the price of the generator and that, but it's
Just
just.
buy the generator ourselves and get it cheaper, just pay for install this.
We can install it.
It's a possibility, but then, like the lead times for Moldberg was, basically 60 weeks.
How many?
60 weeks for lead time for Moldberg, and for B&B, the lead time was 26 weeks, but that was in November when I got the quote.
Jeez, Christian.
This is 22,180 to 22,700, so I feel like they're really marking that generator a lot.
I don't think we'd be able to buy it any cheaper. I'm sure they get a preferred discount. Go that route if you want.
I don't know
I
what
think
this
it's
is.
time myself.
This says Kohler RCLV 60 kilowatt generator, 22,180 to 22,700 for shipping.
But what did you drive that with?
It's the whole generator.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's not installed, it's just the equipment.
But that's what the transfer switch, and there's other things. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not just the generator, it's the transfer switch and all the
Labor and all that.
rerouting.
Oh, and that's it, ready to go. So-
Right, but if you're saying a generator probably 60,000.
24,000 is a long ways for 83,000.
Right here, this,
24,000?
Yeah, well, and he's saying the generator part of that bid was 60,000, so this is 3 times.
what generator are you looking at though? I mean,
Kohler 60R,
here's
RCLV 60
here's this
kilowatt.
one's from Moldberg, they're the top line item there.
Oh, okay, so not 60,000, so 35.
The same
And
identical
then some
generator.
more expensive.
But then you have to add the transfer switch, which in the quote there, he doesn't have that tallied up. but I
Transfer
thought-
switch, he has at $5,000.
Yep.
Well, I still feel like there's a cheaper way to buy the equipment ourselves.
But then who installs it?
I think
Well,
due
you
to
could still hire them for the install part of it.
due to the price of this too, in accordance with our purchasing policies, this would have to go out for bid.
Yeah, and you might honestly find out.
I mean, you guys could certainly approve a, like an up to amount today for ARPA funds, and then, you know, contingent upon kind of how some of those other ones were, but we need to make sure that we follow the process.
With these two bids, with these two bids,
2 bids, but because it's over $25,000, it has to be put out for,
you have to have another bid?
it has to be put out for,
I thought it was 250,000 on your financial procedures.
that's under federal, uniform guidance, and we don't have to follow uniform guidance under ARPA. We have to follow our county procedures for that. Which from reading this, anything over 25,000 shall be let by contract to the lowest responsible bidder.
I guess the reason I reached out to these two contractors is because they've done all the work in this building, they know the building. And then,
And that's a reason to maybe not go with necessarily the lowest bid, but I think we still need to follow our policies, otherwise why do we have them?
So, then you seek another bid? Another bid?
I think it needs to be, put out for bid, like published.
RFP or what?
We review the policy. Again, I don't have to, most of my purchases aren't over this, so I'm, don't need to be, be the one going out for bid on all this stuff, but.
So in other words, we're gonna put out an RFP and send it to both Marburg and B&B, make sure they get it, but then we still have to have somebody else bid on it. Is that it?
It doesn't say a minimum number, it just says you need to put it out there.
Well, let's say, let's send them an RFP then.
Yeah, and if you guys, you can still approve up to a certain dollar amount, but, just because all these projects are approved doesn't mean that they can just go with whatever contractor they want.
Yeah.
And that's actually under state statute that requires that be put out for bid.
Well, aren't these actually RFPs right now?
No,
Where are they?
he just called and got price
Oh.
quotes from them.
Oh,
He just got
Yeah,
some.
because if they shall be let by
Well,
contract
yeah,
to the
but it
lowest
hasn't been
responsible
published
bidder.
so that others can bid on it. Yeah, it's not an art.
This is just
The
to
only
give
reason,
us,
the only reason I reached out to them people is because they're familiar with this building, they've done all the work in this building.
Right, I
So
know
you
that.
get some
Yep,
judge
right.
Bull that don't know what's going on, I mean.
Right,
he's
but
gonna- he's gonna-
that doesn't mean we have to
he's
go with
gonna-
their
he's
bid,
gonna
but we
give you a
have to
whole-
give them the opportunity
I
to,
get what you're saying, but it's just kicking the can down the road.
well, it's state statutes, so.
Sometimes you can't help it.
See if we can get something back by next month then.
I make the motion to put emergency generator out for RFP.
Is there a second?
I'll say.
If we have to.
Motion made and second. Put out an RFP for these generators. Say, wanna make sure that both of these two get it. Copy of it. I guess you got pump shit.
Yeah, you're gonna have to look up the statutes and make sure that,
Okay,
Have it back by next meeting.
yeah.
unless the statutes require that it be posted longer.
You say,
Well, yeah, that's,
not have to have
that's up
it so many
to
weeks.
Gary to look up the statutes and figure out what needs to be done to be compliant with those.
It's not always easy.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Rich could help too.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? Not?
Should we send it to up to 100,000? More money to send to the finance?
Well, we should get.
So at least we got the money allocated for it before it's not.
Well,
I'll make
so-
that motion.
depending on what the RFP comes back, we may or may not even,
Can't, it's already motion.
We could make it,
depending on what the RFP comes back,
You
we
can make a
may or may
motion to
not decide
amend.
to do it, so I guess that might.
you can make a motion to amend it.
I mean, we have a couple of quotes, you have an idea, but.
You wanna do that, make a motion to amend it? And up to,
What do we gotta do?
is there a second for that?
Up to 100?
You said 100,000.
Is that for one or two, Gary?
Okay, what happens if they go over 100,000?
Then I guess we gotta reconsider.
Well, aren't we right now just putting it out for RFP?
Do we need to have a price limit on it?
When we get it back, we wanna get the project done. So we wanna know where the money's coming from, cause you gotta go to finance, then you gotta go to county board to get the money approved through our fund.
It'll be done by the end of March, right? And,
You done with what?
For our next
It
meeting.
would've just been nice to know in November, that would've been done.
Okay. Do we propose motion back by Jeff Key. Good to see you. Anything else that might
Are we
make
going
it?
100,000 in ARPA, or up to?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if it's over that, then
You'd have to come back.
the rest of the money would have to come out
We
sometime.
could, yeah, we could come out of capital projects or something.
That low number that I gave you, that was from November. The high number was from 2 weeks ago. So, that low number might be in the $100,000 range, so.
Well, we gotta set it somewhere. We can always take the excess if we decide to go ahead. The overage, we could always take out of capital projects.
Or why
There
should
may,
it still-
there might still be some ARPA available.
Oh, it would, just amend it.
I don't wanna borrow more.
We got the money can be used. All right,
So
that way.
what is the motion?
Motion by Biller to amend the motion to include $100,000 from ARPA fund and forward to finance and county board. Or kids ARPA funds. So your request, if you're amending to add $100,000 from ARPA funds.
So basically, the way he amended it is, if we get quotes back, we're gonna approve it if it's $100,000, no matter how we feel, and then it's gonna be, not out of the funds.
I guess basically,
Well, it all depends.
it really would be.
I think that this committee still needs to decide which bit to go with.
Right.
Right, yeah.
Forward it to.
But at least then we know, we have our funding source and we can just,
I don't
at that
think-
point, move forward with it.
From that standpoint, if we want it to come out of our performance, no matter what, then we need to put a price limit on it. Just leave it, say,
We gotta have
Well-
a number of the county board.
Yeah, I'm working on, cause I'll do another resolution to include these additional ARPA, to go to county board.
okay. Motion made,
We need a second on that one, to amend.
I'm afraid 100,000 is what it comes.
we can always come back for more.
Okay, then I'll.
We get another kick at the cat.
Okay, I'll second it.
Alright. Motion up to 100,000. Miller, second by Al. All in favor, signify by aye. Any opposed? No, okay. Motion carries. Now, the original motion.
To request RFPs for emergency backup generator for the finance and county board. Motion made by Wenwick, second by Mr. Anderson.
Okay, any more discussion on that part? If not, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I'm gonna do some difficult. I got a drug course way out here.
Okay, I gotta call Annette.
You like, oh,
They purchased some items with their grant at year end that were over the $1,000, so that never got approved. And those are those invoices that I emailed you guys. I do have another copy here, I only got one, it's like.
Purchase without approval?
Question you can-
Oh.
Hi, you're on speaker. Hi. I got full property committee here.
we're talking about, discussing these drug court purchases.
Yep.
What are they, what all are they and how much is it?
So those are, for the telehealth room. That's 2022 grant, that grant is done, so, it used to be one other time I had to go in front of property, probably like 2 years into the drug court. And, they said, well, anytime you purchase anything with the county over $1,000, that's our rules, you gotta get approval for it. Well, then I'd go in and say, okay, well, the grant approved it, and then they'd say, well, why do you come and ask us? And I'd say, because I was told I have to. So the way it is, we have a budget with the drug court when we apply for the grant. That gets approved, we have to follow that budget. If we deviate from that budget for any reason, we have to get approval from the grant. We have to do a budget modification. So that was done, to use extra funding towards the end of last year to do this telehealth room. So part of that room was setting up everything to have, therapy, groups via telehealth. So the PD was over 1,000. There's video conferencing, Cisco, Systex, web equipment was over 1,000, and a computer. So it's already been paid. It was, approved by the grantor. We did the budget modification. It's been approved. We've done the final quarter for the grant. But then I don't know, somebody noticed that there were purchases over $1,000, and I didn't come to property for permission because years ago I was told that we didn't have to. So, I will. It's not a problem if that's what needs to be done, but.
So the money's coming out of a grant?
Yep, all of it comes right out of the grant.
Okay. We need to know, yes.
Yeah, I guess in the future, I would recommend, no matter what somebody tells you, if the policy states to do something a certain way, I would stick to what the policy says on it.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I said, in the future, I would recommend that no matter what somebody tells you, if the policy says to do something a certain way, I would recommend doing it the way the policy speaks of it, not what somebody told you, I guess.
Yeah, it was the property committee, like 8 years ago who told me I didn't have to come back. So if you guys want me to, I will. I just need to know what I need to do.
Should be.
Yep, you should be.
Okay.
Everybody else has to.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thanks. So we have make a motion, Hale?
Well,
Well, they're already paid, but.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchases out of the grant funds.
Second it, Bill? Alright, motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? Not all those in favor, signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Reassignment of third floor space. What's that?
So this kind of ties into that somewhat, I don't know that we have a formal process in place for when space gets utilized for new reasons other than its intended purpose, like for example, that telehealth conference room used to be like a conference room, well, at one point in time it was the court reporter's office, and then they moved the court reporter into the old register and probate office, and then we're utilizing that as a conference room for, court-related stuff, also somewhat for drug court. But now that it's a telehealth conference room, it's 100% drug court. It cannot be used for any other reason because they purchased all this stuff with drug court money and put it in there, so that can only be used for drug court reasons. And it was never documented in minutes that space was approved to be used for drug court, and I don't know what you guys want, if you're okay with reallocation of space in the building without it coming through this committee, or how you want that to be handled. For cost audit reasons, I need to know, what square footage is being used for what purpose, because that's how we allocate our indirect costs for the building. So, I guess I'm just kind of looking for some guidance on, do we need documented approval for that, or do you want to give that authority to the facilities manager or somebody else? Or, would you like those to come to committee and be documented in minutes that that's what this space is not going to be utilized for?
To what?
Documented, for this thing.
Well, in the past it has.
And the other piece of it too is the, our old office space upstairs, some of the personnel files from terminated employees got moved up there. I don't know if that's, we should probably get that documented, or.
Shouldn't that be in the HR person's office? Personnel files? So we need to.
I do think that it's kind of
into a vault until we had a new HR person. Gary and I have already talked about that, so.
Yeah, cause isn't that happen with the whole administrative coordinator and all that and all that?
I came to you guys in January or December at the last property meeting and asked you about, on that one, I mean, she wanted to move into that room there, but I asked you guys, I was fine with it if you guys were, as long as we didn't pull out that desk that was in there, because that was custom made for that room, and you guys agreed that she could move in there, but just leave the desk. But it's not in minutes,
But I think that's the drug court coordinator, this is a different room.
the conference room, and
I don't remember that.
There was a personnel records upstairs.
because the rooms are adjoining.
All those shady things that happened in the past.
That's, I just wanna know what the expectation is, what we, you know, want for those procedures.
You know, we got the room, it's not a problem,
Not at all.
and we've allowed things to be moved, you know,
Right, I don't know that it's necessarily a question of allowability, but just so we have a process in place, and especially with potentially moving forward with this master plan facilities, we're going to need to utilize some of that vacant space if people are temporarily displaced or permanently displaced with construction. You know, we kind of need to know what spaces are potentially available.
We need a motion for that.
And not get to the point where it's like, oh, well, you know, all 6 of those offices in that old suite are now
how
occupied.
much vacant space is up there right now?
In our old office space, there's one office that's being used and has been utilized by the DA for storage. We've got one office kind of filled with Andy stuff yet that Ashley and I are slowly working through. I don't know which office those files ended up in.
So it's Andy's.
Okay, so, and then there's still 3 empty up there.
Four empty.
Like some new cells for a new jail.
No, cause the DA is still using that one at the end of the floor.
There's your old office, the other 2 offices, and what there was.
Oh, yeah, that's not really an office though.
So who wants this space, third floor space?
Well, so I'd like to get in the minutes that, you know, drug court is utilizing that conference room, and then is the drug court coordinator office moving as well?
They were liking to, I think.
So there's those 2 space, it's kind of across the hall from where the judge's office is. They're the only 2 offices on that side of the hall. There's a conference room, and then what used to be the registered probate office.
Last time I asked in November what that space, I thought you guys said you were gonna move the DA over there, so.
Finance, right?
But I don't think anything's been officially approved on that.
She was going more towards paper, or paperless, right?
So,
I mean, I think they should be here to tell us.
Yeah, honestly, I spent a lot of time with this.
I'll put stuff wherever you guys want me to, but,
so basically you're talking about reassigning this
for getting out of here.
your, cost allocation,
Yeah, facility.
that would come out of whose budget then after that, once you reassign it?
So then that would go to drug court, and then it would increase their cost allocations for their cash match that they can utilize for their grant. So, but that's, you know, we're talking 3 years down the road before they actually see that increase, because we're always 2 years behind, on our costs, because they're, you know, for 2023, we're utilizing the 2021 cost allocation plan due to the timing of when those plans are actually completed.
What do you recommend?
I recommend you guys approving that space for drug court. I mean, they're already in it, so, and then we can adjust that on the cost allocation plan. I think that the personnel files, which Connie said are already getting moved, you know, it's just them being up there in that vacant office. Anybody could potentially have access to that.
They should be moved down into the vault. So, up to Gary to do that?
I'll do it right after the meeting here.
Maybe what should happen is they should just,
I think the active ones need to be in the HR.
I think if you're gonna have an HR person, you should have a group, office big enough for an HR person. So it's all in one.
I'm not lying.
And I think, you know, in locking cabinets, is very important too.
So you'll take care of the personnel records?
Yeah, I'll move them right after this meeting.
Okay.
I mean, I would say for now, without an HR person, that's spot for me.
I have 2. I would hope for, I
then-
bring all the machines back in April, so I do have room in one vault.
And I would maybe then at that point discuss with her or him what, probably my personnel records.
Can you have the new HR person have a office up in the old finance building? Then we got plenty of room.
Well, we might need to utilize that space for something else
Put
eventually.
them out of the way,
Mhm.
all the rest of you down here.
Yeah, and it needs to be accessible to employees, all employees.
Can't they go into,
Move extension up to third floor and let HR be an extension.
Well, extension also needs to be accessible because they work with the general public.
can't the new HR person be where Ellie was?
I think we could make everything fit in that office.
I think that maybe that office needs to be rekeyed, to where, you know, it's not a master key that opens that door.
That's,
That should be getting one of those badge locks.
Yeah.
that's one of those approved. Order.
So
Alright, let's
I guess what I'm
figure out why
looking
they
for
both-
is a motion on the drug court space.
Yeah, safe.
So we wanna reallocate that space upstairs, basically for the drug court.
Yes, so it would be, is it both of those rooms?
Conference room and the old courtroom.
Okay, and that'll be vacating the old drug court office?
That's that question.
If you got them, if you got one of them,
The old, the old.
Register and probate office in the conference room. Next to it.
I guess I know it as the drug court, or the court reporter office.
alright, we have a motion, is there a second?
Yeah.
Any other discussion on it? Not all those in favor, signify by aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
So do you guys want those types of changes to continue to come to committee?
Yeah, they should, because, you know, well, going on right now, down the road, future planning, whatever you wanna call it, changes in the building. You know, where things are gonna end up at. Alright, who will, key report, payment, so, everybody have a chance to look at them. Is there a second for that? Invoices?
Second.
Motion by Jerry, second by Phil, approve our invoices. Any other discussion on them? Not, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Hey, now I'm Mr. Coordinator.
Is there anything else, Tony, that you wanna talk about with the hospital?
Yeah, sorry for jumping out.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Didn't Marshville Clinic, or Marshville give a quote for the building?
Yeah, the appraisal on the clinic came back at $1 million on the clinic building.
Are you and Rich gonna start negotiating on that?
I don't think
We
we've
would
had-
need the say-so from the board.
Yeah, I don't
to
think
do
we've had
that.
any direction to do that.
Motion that we have Ashley and Rich start negotiating with Marshfield on better price for the clinic.
I don't think that's a. agenda item.
This shouldn't be an open session discussion.
Yeah, it's not an agenda item.
No, it's not.
I thought we could have a closed session.
Well, anyway,
What about the detached garage lease that went here, Tim?
Right, so there's a garage on the south side of the property that Marshfield would like to use. but obviously if we don't really know what we wanna do with the property, Mike kinda wants a 60-day out on that.
Do what?
He wants a 60-day out on that. So if we let them use it.
Telling us the whole building or nothing.
Okay. If we let them use it starting in May, but then we wanna tear it down in June, we're gonna have to wait for them to vacate the garage until,
Well, I think cutting off utilities has that as well.
they don't need it heated.
But, I mean, power, I'm sure they would need power for garage doors.
They can lift that.
Lights.
The garage is part of the hospital, is that right?
It's detached.
Well, yeah, it's detached, kind of closer to the river down there.
Right, but is that
How
part of the
much-
hospital
It's
itself?
county.
How much?
Yeah, it's ours, it's
That's right,
our
that's what I
garage.
mean, it's ours.
Did they have like
Now, how
a,
long do they want to continue using it?
He's thinking a year. He's willing to do a monthly lease. He'd prefer a 2-month notice though.
what, did he say a price on what it needs to be, or is that what I was looking for?
Yeah, he's looking for what we would want.
Well, does that have separate utilities on Roseville?
I don't know.
Probably not.
I think the boilers are all right.
Let's say be hooked up with the hospital.
If we can get rent money out of it for a year. Of course, then again, we'd probably get a better deal on somebody tearing down the whole thing all at once.
Roger. Price on the term.
You don't have to make a decision today.
Well,
Okay.
if he wants to do it month by month, then I would think we would say we have 30 days
Yeah,
notice.
yeah.
Because we should have, we probably have a 30-day notice before we get somebody in there to tear down anyways, I would think.
He wants 60. I'm saying only 30.
We can negotiate the 60 or 30.
Well, we don't need to take any action on it, right?
Nope, I'll have it on the agenda every month from now on to discuss.
Well, I think, we don't need to do anything on it till roughly May 1st. What do you think?
Well, by then, I'm sure he'll have found alternative arrangements.
And I'll try to find out some more information with the insurance regarding, if there's any issues with shutting off utilities, and then I can find out, we can actually make work together to find out, if shutting off the utilities impacts whether or not they would want to rent that garage, if we could just leave the electric on in that, if they need that. We can work on that.
Well, you can do that if you want. Otherwise, I don't see we have to move on it at this point in time.
No, really, no. We don't know what we're doing yet.
Okay? The next item is approval of safety manual.
So, we contracted with Dustin Thompson from Keeping Safety Simple, like, a year ago-ish, and, he has completed the safety manual. He had been working with Ellie on setting up trainings. Rich and I talked, the manual should go through you guys as the property committee to be approved, and then we'll send it to the full board, if you can make that a motion. I emailed the full manual to you a few days ago. I don't know if you had a chance to look through it, but this is how he's basing what we need training off of.
A motion forward to come to board. Is there a second?
I'll second. But question, there's some spelling and grammatical errors in some of the first part here. Can we have somebody correct that?
Oh, sure.
It doesn't change the meaning or anything, but it's just wrong from an English grammar point of view.
Sure, yep.
Can I show you what they are later?
Oh, later,
We need an English
Sure.
major too.
Well, no, but some of this stuff, I mean, it's just, to me, it's obvious. So, okay.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Any other discussion on it? Not all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're on the airport. I guess Gary's up again.
I guess just an update, obviously with the snow and ice, the airport's been shut down a few times, but it's pretty much been open. It's been open the whole time. We've had a couple run for the secondary runway shut down for a little while, but the primary one's been pretty much open. We are now dealing with a phone issue out there, that's in the process of getting fixed. It was kind of a Spectrum, Charter, CenturyLink, Lumen, and Brightspeed. So now we're trying to kind of get it all the Charters or Spectrum or whatever. But CenturyLink or Brightspeed or Lumen, it kind of had our numbers or something. We couldn't get our numbers back. But Neil and Bugs are working at getting that back. I actually signed some papers this Friday to get it all set up for Charter Spectrum. I don't think it's a hard process. It's just getting a hold of somebody. I called twice to the CenturyLink and them guys, and first time I was on hold for 20 minutes, and then they transferred me to Lumen, and then I just lost them. And then I called another time and I was on there for 40 minutes and I didn't get nowhere.
Sounds like my email. CenturyLink email.
So now all Neil and Bugs are waiting for is Charter to set a date to go put the service back in. And then I think we have gotten our numbers back now. So they just have to, we're waiting on Charter CenturyLink, or Charter Spectrum basically to get that set up. Other than funded projects and updates, I guess, we're just waiting for the new fuel system to come in. They said the parts are back ordered, so hopefully that would be, I'm hoping by summer that'd be done. The new fuel system. As for the loader, they told me, well, back in November that the loader, we don't expect it until maybe next winter, possibly not. I guess that's about it. Well, Greg Swoop has been renting hangar number 3, and then early January. He said he contacted the county in end of 2022 here, but never got nowhere with it. But he finally got a hold of me and said he wanted to vacate his hangar, and then so I just got a hold of him yesterday. He's in Arizona, but he wants to vacate his hangar, so I just told him he needs to pay for January. And then
So he's officially vacated then?
he's officially vacated, yep.
And, we were looking for, somebody to rent that yet.
Correct. I called Jan Thayer or whatever, cause that's who people said wanted it, but he's hemming and hawing around. I don't think he's gonna take it.
Maybe I'll post something on Facebook, and I was letting your number down, so I can contact.
Okay.
I think I talked to him about that before.
Yep.
I brought it to him yesterday, she said.
She's got a.
Bugs might be able to elaborate a little bit more on the phone issue out at the airport, but I just kind of told him it was kind of a slew of different contractors, and I think we got it narrowed down to Charter Spectrum, correct? Now we got a numbers back, kind of?
We do, we got a work order in, we're just waiting to hear back whatever, it's gonna be convenient for Charter Spectrum to port those numbers over for us. But the work order is signed, ready to go.
Right now, so anybody that wants to get fuel with credit card, they can. But Rands was able to get jet fuel just because they have it's a white card. Me and Shar actually called up as an AD, the local administrator, and he actually said that there was supposed to be a white card in the desk out there, but I never did find it. I found multiple cards, but he said there was supposed to be a superintendent card out there or something, but I never did find that card. But one of Rand's pilots had one that was able to work. he was able to get jet fuel. As of right now, with the phone lines down, anybody that wants to get fuel.
You can put 100 gold out right now.
What's that?
100 gold out right now, you can't get it.
Unless for some reason Andy or somebody gave you guys a white card.
No,
Rand's is the only one that has impulse charge.
you have that out.
So what was that, some clarification, financial procedures, or what was that?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Ashley, I don't know if you wanted to.
Ashley, you wanna do the deed grant thing?
Oh, sure. So this is something that just came from the Public Services Commission, and it's a non-competitive grant opportunity for all Wisconsin counties. And they're looking for us to submit a letter of intent by March 7th, looking into broadband expansion. It's just a planning study. We can either commit ourselves as Rusk County and we get about 16,000, but if we partner with other counties in northwestern Wisconsin, we get about 18,000. So that's the route I'd like to go. That would be working with the Northwest Regional Planning Commission and WEDC.
That's for what, is broadband?
Yes.
Was that just a grant to do a study on it, or what?
Yes, it's for research into what it would cost to update broadband infrastructure and bring it into new areas. Yes, if you could, that would be great. I don't have a ton of information, Tony, this just came out earlier this week. Northwest Regional Planning Commission doesn't have any guidance on it yet either. The PSC just kind of dropped this on everyone.
I have a motion by Jerry.
Did you say for pursuing it with the other counties or with?
Yes. Second by Terry to proceed. Is there any other discussion on it? Not all in favor, signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Alright, now we'll go back to the insurance fund authority. Okay.
I think we pretty much have all of those ones coming in, and we are just about breaking even, just a little ahead of that. We did sell, Phil Grassman was able to sell that Charger, this year, and so he got about $9,300, we're waiting for that check to come in, so that will increase the cash balance in our county car fleet. Jerry asked me to look into, potentially being able to move a truck to highway. Jerry, do you wanna talk about that?
Yeah, we took 2 trucks out of county job stores. One in the food field, animal shelter truck transfer on the highway. Highway would purchase it from the county card. The estimated value of when we
What run was that?
2011.
This one here, 2011.
Basically just a truck to use to run any parts or take parts over to the site. It's not an actual
Work truck.
It's just a runaround truck for the shop. Yeah. They gotta haul tires out sometimes, so the truck's out on the field or. Yeah. It's a regular cab, picked up with a topper.
Yeah, I think,
Is an extended cab?
oh, what they currently have, or, yeah, not what they currently have, I think it's just regular cab, and then they have like toolboxes and stuff in the back.
No, not the one.
Oh, okay.
The one they just
So
took
they-
out of service were just the old patrol.
Okay.
So this is the one here, the 2011?
So that's the one that used to be that first one, the 2011, is in the fleet right now. and that was the animal shelter truck, maintenance currently has it, and then Gary suggested that the second one would also be an option, so I just Kelly Blue looked them. The trade-in value is on them, and then I also wrote in the private party value just for comparison.
I just got told about it yesterday, I was thinking about it last night. I don't really wanna get rid of the animal shelter truck, cause we use that one now, just have a topper on there, it works great for us. So we have the 2016 pickup, and that was only got 40,000 miles on it. I'm fine with, you guys wanna buy that from us or whatever, but, I don't wanna trade it, I don't want trade-in price on it, that's for sure. And, that green 2005 truck, if you guys want that too, you can have that, you can have that also. But obviously I don't want to trade in price.
Well, you're not actually gonna get the sale price of it, this is part of the fleet, so this is the jurisdiction of the property committee to make that decision on what they would be willing to sell it for, to the highway department.
I would like, to be honest with you, I need to have a track skid steer, I'd be willing to trade for it.
But this isn't maintenance money, because of the way the fleet is charged, it's the miles that get
And it's
charged.
not really your truck, it's you're using the fleet's truck, and the fleet owns the truck now.
We just allocated.
Right, you're just allowed to use it, so.
You said-
Well, the animal shelter truck is convenient for us right now, but, the green one would be fine with the or like I said, the 2016, which is actually a better, newer and better truck. But it don't have a topper on it, so it doesn't work great for us, because we work in all conditions, basically.
Do you want me to look at these things?
What do we do with the 2005 and 11?
They're just part of, right now, maintenance, has 7 vehicles and only 5 positions for employees, so,
But she's saying 7, we didn't know that the dump truck, I was told when I got hired, the dump truck was supposed to stay at the airport, and she just told me yesterday that we can use it anywhere.
That wasn't what with,
contingency, it was purchased with contingency dollars in
Yeah,
2014.
that wasn't,
It's been on this report
yeah,
ever since
that
the
wasn't.
beginning.
I remember him.
I remember that discussion here. I thought that.
So now that I know
it was
that,
purchased out of, but if it was a contingency, then it doesn't matter. I thought at that time we thought it was out of.
No, I looked it up yesterday, it was purchased out of,
same, I asked Rob this morning, I mean, he probably don't know, but, he said he thought Mike Natch always told him that they bought it out of, the general fund, but then the airport reimbursed.
I guess, what does, highway want?
Well, we just need to have a meeting on the 20th.
What?
We have a meeting on the 20th, that's to get it approved through highway, but we gotta figure out a price on these trucks. If there's one.
That's the way you wanna do it.
So what would you propose?
Nothing at this point.
Well, we need a truck right there. Just one, cause we took 2 out of service, so they don't have a shop truck right now.
We would just, maintenance would just, we would like to keep that animal shelter truck because it's not a nice truck, but it's not a bad truck. It's in between truck, so, but, like that 2016, it's a nicer truck, you know what I mean? We just, I'd rather have somebody, somebody else to use it.
I just kind of looked at 16, and that one's coming in for trade-in value 22 to 26. So I think that one of those other ones would be definitely more in the price range. What Highway's got in the equipment fund right now, Sky said they've got about 33,000, and they really kind of need 2 trucks. So we spend
Well,
22,000 on one.
what's the disadvantage of getting rid of the 2011 from animal shelter?
So, yeah, and that one, last month, we approved trading, maintenance explorer for the animal shelter truck. So maintenance just got that animal shelter truck like a month ago.
So why doesn't we want to get rid of it?
Because it works as a great truck for us.
What?
It works as a great truck for us because it's got a topper on it and everything. Like I said, it's not a new truck and it's not an old truck. It's kind of right in between where
They've got, what, 2 other ones with toppers on them too? That one that came from the sheriff's department was last year.
Yep.
And then the other, I think both of these trucks have toppers on them, that 2005
Yep.
also does.
Well, if the highway short 2 trucks, and we don't need them, in maintenance, all of them, then why don't we let highway take 2 of them? But I mean, since their fleet is down by 2,
as I just said, I mean, they take the green one in the 2016, right? Take it.
yeah, but that's gonna kill their
We don't have enough in the
budget.
Well, then, take the animal shelter truck and the green truck, but I'm gonna have to buy a topper for that 16, which is gonna be probably $2,000 topper probably.
Just a recommendation on out to highway, what property wanna do with this thing. Maybe.
And what
maybe
you
we
want
could-
to sell it to highway for, so that highway knows what they'd be looking at.
Well,
We'll leave it up to highway to decide if they want.
I think you
So
guys need to
they
put a
could-
price, I think you need to
we
put a
gotta
price
figure
on
out a
what.
price on what we're selling them to another department for.
Right.
Do you guys want me to print out the one for this, the 16 one as well? I can grab it quick.
Well, you know, we got a choice here, we got anywhere from the trade-in range up to private party.
What I would rather see we do is we just get the price on the 16, have Tim go look at it, see which one he thinks.
Okay, I'll go print
And
this
bring a
one.
recommendation to highway what we want. And maybe he don't want to, maybe he can get by with one, but we have to budget it within our
Mhm.
equipment fund out there.
Yeah, I think that the property committee though should set the price on what
Yeah.
you want to come in, and that's why I think we're here today.
Whatever you're selling for is going back into the fleet.
Right.
Do we take the average?
So, are we gonna use prices that we got here, or you already looked up the tech?
Yeah, and I'm printing the one for that 2016 right now.
2016?
Yeah, that was one that Gary threw in today.
So are we gonna go off the trade-in range or the private party range?
Well, if you look at for the 2011, the trade-in is 10,100 something to 12,900, which is almost 13, so it's 10 to 13,000. Private party says 11,800, up to 15, and 11,800 right in the middle of the trade-in.
Which right there, there's a middle range.
So you can have it, see? And the same with this other one. I think I would use those as the guidelines.
So you're saying the trade-in range, take the average of the trade-in range? is
Yeah,
that
we're
what-
supposed to, right on the
Yep,
trade-in.
on the,
And then she'll have the other printed out.
Yeah,
That was a highway, and I'll have Tim meet with Gary
yeah,
next week sometime and see which one.
I think that's the simplest approach to take.
Maybe he only wants one.
I'm fine with getting rid of them because I didn't know we could use that dump truck. I thought that dump truck had to stay there, so now that I know we can bring it around here, I'm fine with getting rid of it.
make sure the airport.
Well, the thing about the dump truck, it probably don't be quite as good a ride as
Make sure the airport.
I think we use that much anyway, really.
all short hops, fairgrounds or whatever.
Get shovel on the hangers on it.
Would be much trail.
If you read your contract, you got 4
Don't have
feet,
that much.
you got 4 feet in front of the door.
They did a pretty nice job of the trucks coming, like,
Yeah.
they left it pretty small, stuff, actually, better than the old ones. It's really like it's pretty-
I can usually get about 6 to 8 inches.
I got one. Here, I got this one. You got it. I got it. You need it?
made and seconded, to the trading value of all trucks. Committed pretty much.
And then you guys can work together, highway and maintenance, and come up with what they think, and then come back
Well, no, we'll purchase it for the trade-in value of whichever truck I would decide to
Yeah,
get.
whatever ones they want. Any discussion, further discussion on that? Not all in favor, signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Carries. Now, and the rest. Review insurance claims. Sorry,
Do you guys have any questions on the report that's sent there?
I know.
Two of those, sheriff squads actually came in already, so we're working on equipping those right now.
Two of them did?
Yep, do we know when the other two are coming, Jeff, yet?
Two of the four come in.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's all I have for that. Any specific questions?
No, I don't have any rail. Okay. Now then. Another squad coverage, which is us. On the agenda. Still, we wanna put that on our. What do you wanna discuss at this point?
Yes, we should discuss
Huh?
I think we should discuss the rotation here, how that exactly works. I don't think we should, in my opinion, I think that whatever we do, we should not purchase vehicles with, not enough fund balance.
Well, I don't, myself don't think there should be a hard and fast rule on a number of vehicles. I mean, and I have a suggestion here that on the last line here, or amended report for GPS on all county-owned vehicles and equipment tracking. I think that could be very helpful as far as expenses, maintenance, and everything else. Usage. Walk out county vehicles.
Sure, you probably already have GPS on yours.
And equipment, highway equipment, everything.
See when it's sitting still or when it's moving or.
Forestry and.
Or seal, every one of them. And everybody else should look into what the cost would be. And, you know, there's companies out there, I mean, look, all your trucking companies are doing it now. Well, they monitor them, they know when they're running, when they're not running, how fast they're going.
Yeah.
Where they're at all times. The cost for maintenance shows me when the maintenance has been done. You know, when,
I've heard reports of cars or trucks sitting in one spot for 2-3 hours.
well, whatever, but I mean, it's a pretty good system.
Yeah.
Now, there's quite a few systems out there, for sure. I think somebody ought to have somebody look into some system. I don't care if you wanna check with trucking companies, see what they use, or, you know, you can go on the internet, look them up, and there's a lot of them on the internet. Find out what the cost would be.
Use them for trailers and everything for the truck companies, cause they'll email me and say, hey, can you verify our GPS is showing this trailer?
They know when one's stolen or where it's at. They do.
Yeah, I know.
Some of the companies have had drivers quit.
Huh?
Some of the companies have had drivers quit where they just leave them wherever they're at, and they go find them that way too.
put you off in water, but I think it'd be a good idea. At least we need to look into it.
Yeah. Cost some stuff.
I don't know what it costs. I don't have, it didn't cost much to look into it.
That's what I'm saying.
Highways are, he's gonna have a proposal for us, telling us how much it costs to put every.
Highway?
Highway.
Every highway vehicle. But you know, the thing of it is, the more vehicles you have on it, you got a lot of places have what's called fleet discount. If you've got X number of vehicles, you get a discount, cost per vehicle. So,
I think we should explore that.
well, and it's gonna give you a consistent record of every vehicle that maintenance is on it. Winds performed, oil changes, everything. It's gonna show up automatically. You don't have to try and keep track of it manually or anything else.
Were we done on, or were we gonna discuss the sheriff's squad, or?
Well, we can, but I just thought we'd bring this up as part of that.
I think we should explore it.
Huh?
I think we should, check and see what it costs to equip them. Cars,
We already got highway looking into.
just the GPS.
Well,
I suppose that's probably more of an emergency services
why don't you have highway?
company type thing that does that.
Ours is part of our program.
I gotcha.
Send it where they're getting it from, back to the property committee, share it with us, so we can look at it. As it always was.
Are you doing everything, graders, tractors, trucks?
We were just doing, licensed vehicles.
But I think you should get equipment too. I mean, I'm thinking like the Bobcats and like those, backhoes and stuff.
Most of the new stuff already has it in there.
Well, I don't know if they do or not, but I'm just saying. Well, if you're going to
See what-
check, you might,
wait and see what the cost would be per.
all big items.
Or vehicle, when the highway does it.
How many vehicles do highway have? Oh,
A lot.
well, I know when you talk about the plow trucks and everything,
We
but
got 25 trucks.
Yeah.
You gotta add all the pickups, and then you got your semis.
oh, you got 40 vehicles.
Trucks are running at a time.
You got probably 40 vehicles out there. In the county, park fleet right here is 46.
Stuff they don't use for power.
86 vehicles.
So why don't we wait and see what they get for a proposal, then do we wanna
Well,
move forward with it?
You can send it over to Tim. You can't take care of the fleet, right?
The thing of it is, if we're gonna do something though,
I suggested it back in September, I think it'd be great.
if the county's gonna do something, then I think they ought to do it combined with highway, so you get them all,
Yeah.
because you'll get a better price on it.
Financially,
I don't think I don't think either department should move without at least acknowledgement from the other department. Okay, enough of that. So you wanna, let's see, we're back to the county or not? Sheriff vehicles, or whatever you call it. Quad replacement.
Apparently at some point we need a 5-year rotation for squad cars.
I heard that, they said so. I'm told it was, never agreed to or whatever as far as it was a resolution.
But they sent out the, minutes from, was this property minutes?
Yeah, it says the 5-year rotation was approved in
So she said that, purchased 3 new cars in 2021 with intent to borrow an amount of up to $122,000. That was for the full board one. That one doesn't say anything about the rotation, but the property one said there was a rotation, right?
It's a 5-year
Yes.
schedule.
A 5-year rotation schedule. So I guess I noticed on the agenda for the board there was a lot of stuff on the county board agenda that let's borrow for this, let's approve this borrowing, let's approve this borrowing. And I guess maybe that was the direction of the board at the time, was we can buy whatever we want and borrow whatever money we want, but I don't think that's a very good direction. I think we gotta figure out something that works with our finances.
What minutes are you,
If you look at the county board meeting of December 22nd.
Well, I think some of the attitude comes from the fact that we got all this ARPA money. And I think there's just no end to it. But there is an end to it.
It's coming fast.
Huh?
It's coming fast.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and, you know, once that's gone, it's gone. Now, we can do borrowing for capital, but you better not just start borrowing for operational. Because then you're gonna.
I think we should budget for capital too. I don't think we should.
Well, that's okay to budget for, I don't disagree, but you can borrow for capital. But you don't wanna borrow for operational expenses. Huh?
I don't think borrowing for anything's good. I think we can budget for capital.
Something that's a 20-year payback is a lot different than something that's, you know, depreciation 3 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, how a lot of difference. So people, a lot of budgets get in trouble. I think somebody told me that last year, Trice County borrowed $500,000 for their operating budget. Now that's, you stop and think about it. That's gotta be paid back. And it's gonna come out of future levy. It's just bad, that's bad policy.
It is.
I think some of them do it as geo debt, to increase their amount of their allowable levy. And so if you, like, some of them do borrow every year and they say, you know, borrow in December, pay it off in January. Because of our levy limits, that's the only way you can increase your levy is to borrow geo debt. So I think that's maybe why.
Capital.
Well-
And that's kind of what Rusk has been doing, right, up until this last year.
Yes. Yes, we haven't been doing any of that short term, you know, it's all long term.
I guess,
Well, yeah.
in my opinion, if governments look like that we have to borrow, then that should be a decision by the taxpayers, not by the county board. Increase their levy so that they can support having all kinds of new equipment and everything else.
Well, all I know is our finance is getting squeezed worse every year. In our budget, because our levy is not keeping pace.
It's because nobody says no to any kind of spending.
No, but even,
Our levy's not even going up enough to cover any cost of living.
that's what I'm trying to say, it's not even keeping pace with cost of living expenses. Plus, like, it's not keeping pace with maybe insurance costs that go up, things that we don't have any control over.
Well, instead of maybe buying shiny objects, we can spend more money
Oh.
in economic development.
The what?
Maybe instead of buying shiny toys for the county, we can spend more money on economic development, because if people start building new buildings, that'll increase levy.
Yeah,
Unless it's in a,
it's gotta exceed 3% for it to do any good. Cause we're restricted on that, we're restricted by the state law on amount of your levy increase to not exceed 3% unless cost of new construction.
New construction, right? So-
right, but if it's in a TIF district, we don't get any of that money.
Right, no, I'm not referring to the hospital, I'm just saying in general.
Right,
But
but
I know that that's not a
pretty
district.
much the entire industrial park is in a TIF district.
Which is another thing that has bothered me, is that somebody from the county board has been signing off on those TIF districts. Not that we're the full board, vote on it, but,
But
we
even-
we keep voting to, have these TIF districts, and then we can't balance our budget, and then we borrow money.
But even if those TIF districts are a full county board decision, we are only one vote on that joint review
But so
board.
far, we've been a yes vote every time. I nobody's even attempted to dig their heels in, so then the solution is to borrow money because
Well, that's the same thing, it's the same problem we have with joint management.
Alright, we're getting off topic.
There just isn't that much new construction in Rusk County. There isn't going to be.
we could encourage it a little bit more.
How do you encourage it?
Other counties, I feel like, up in Hayward, they've had a lot of businesses and buildings coming and stuff.
Hayward County and Rusk County is completely opposite.
I feel like they don't really have all that much more advantage. They got a few more bigger lakes, I guess, but
Yeah, they got a lot more recreational area.
a lot more encouraged recreation. I don't know if it's just recreational area.
Rusk County is not gonna
We,
have a big expansion of
if we keep that in our minds that we can expand, we never will. Like that.
I think there's a lot of factors involved in that, but nonetheless, that's not just addressing the problem we have here. And I think really, it's kind of early to, try to set a policy on this, county car fleet, or the fleet, squad car, or whatever, policeman. So we get some kind of a feel for the, next year's budget, because I think next year's budget's gonna be a problem.
Well, I think that's something that we should discuss before and not all of a sudden.
No, I can't, it shouldn't be dropped till the end, but I mean, we should have some kind of a feel where we are headed.
But at some point, Jeff's gonna wanna do his work ahead of time to get the approvals for property and finance and county board. And so he's gonna have to have some direction on, what we think we should be doing for his life. I think we had a discussion that, like, make sure that he does it plenty ahead of time so that he's got the approvals of all the committees he
Well,
needs.
this year's taken care of. And you gotta have, you're gonna be looking for approval for next year. So what's the deadline on that?
You asked me to have it here by August.
Huh?
You asked me to have information here by August.
So
Well, then
we should have
We
something
should have
figured
a
out
pretty good
by,
idea by August too.
we should have something figured out by